Hi folks, this is the Universal Mind Channel. Welcome back. It's been a while. After completing the episodes on the physiological process of reincarnation, our theory of it, and we took it from the book that I wrote, Reincarnation, the Scientific Theory. I wanted to take some time and put it all into perspective, at least in my own mind. It's been a long journey for me ever since I was 6 years old. I've wanted to and felt the need to share what happened to me. So this is going to be a little bit, the prior episodes I read through the book because it's very technical and I wanted to get it right. As you noticed, the book is based upon a lot of science that's cited and referenced in the descriptions of each episode. It's necessary because I feel it's necessary for you to realize that everything we discussed in these episodes is based upon science that we know now, has been proven now. So why don't researchers realize reincarnation exists? Well, their research is limited to their own specialized fields, and that's all they really know. They never went through what I did. They never experienced what I did at 6 years old. So that context just has to elude them. They have no frame of reference of that puzzle picture, because each of these little research projects are pieces of a puzzle. I put it together because I lived it. I died it when I was 6. Every pun intended. I died it. They didn't. And unless you died and came back and had the experience that I had, it's really, I think, it's very difficult for people that haven't gone through this to appreciate its impact. Okay? I mean, parents, I didn't discuss it with my parents after it happened. Friends, people I knew at work, no, I don't discuss it. Maybe if I did, it was with select few, and I didn't really go into detail. And it's going to be funny because if they find out that I'm doing these episodes. I've been a lawyer for 40 years. I was a criminal defense trial lawyer for 25, and before that I did different things in law. But I got to know a lot of people, and a lot of people got to know me, and I have a funny feeling they're going to be some shocked, some fascinated, some bemused by these episodes. I understand that. They didn't die when they were 6 years old and came back after being told that what I was told by the strangest person I've ever met in my life. So I guess inevitably I'm going to repeat what was discussed in the first episode. How did I get interested in this? When I was young, I was very ill. They tell me, 6 weeks premature. My lungs weren't formed right. I lived the first 3.5 years in a crib with a sheet over top of me, with vaporizer all over, that mist, trying to help me breathe because I couldn't breathe. And every breath was just torture. But it made me a very strong-willed person, and in the end, I appreciated it. It made me stubborn too. So when I'm 4, I get double pneumonia and almost die, and the doctors, I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. They shot me up penicillin twice a day for 2 weeks. This is back in the 50s. And they really didn't understand asthma. They told me, well, they told my parents, he needs to go to Arizona because he's going to die here. It's too cold here. He'll die. His lungs can't handle it. So off we go to Arizona. We settle in Phoenix, Pinchot Avenue. It's the last street between Phoenix. It's the last street of Phoenix. My backyard was the desert, and my next door neighbor on the other side of the desert was Camelback Mountain. He was my buddy. But that's another story. I'm in first grade. I have measles and chickenpox right after the other. So I miss a lot of school. I go to school and I'm healthy enough to go, and then I catch bronchitis and it turns into double pneumonia, and this one day I'm really, really bad. Teacher tells me to go home, and I'm having trouble breathing. I've got asthma. It's getting worse, and by the time I get home, it's clear they got to take me to the hospital. I'm in the back seat of the car, in my mom's lap. I'm staring out the window of the passenger side. My grandfather's driving, grandmother next to him, and I'm really suffering, trying to breathe. It's getting harder and harder. And I start wondering, what if I just don't breathe? And I don't really care. I just don't, I'm tired of struggling. It's been a long journey and I really am tired. And I try to deflect and distract myself by just watching the telephone poles go by, boom, 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 out the side window, boom, boom, they go past. And I realize it's kind of goofy, but you have to understand, I wasn't really oxygenated at the time, okay? So my brain really wasn't all there. It was somewhere else. And that became an issue because all of a sudden, this alabaster white, beautiful face, female face with medium long hair down to the shoulders, floats from the back of the car to the window I was looking out and stops. And she talks to me. And this is the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen in my life. But she was beautiful. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. And she was talking to me. And she had all this compassion. You don't have to suffer like this. You come with us. Come with me, and I'll make sure that you get a better body next life. What? I can get a better body next life? That means I have to leave my beloved family. I don't know. And I don't know you. Now, these are the thoughts that run in through my head, and she obviously could read my mind. Because she reacted, okay, you don't have to decide now, but you're going to have to decide soon. And then she went away. And I stopped breathing. I knew it. And it was the most freeing experience I had in my life. This life, anyway. Well, we get to the hospital, and my body has passed from somebody, I think my mom, no, maybe my grandfather, because the doctor who ultimately got my body asked him, how long has it been since he stopped breathing? And my grandfather said, oh, right before we came through the double doors. Well, I knew that wasn't true. And I wondered at the time, why did he say that? Why did my grandfather say that? He knows that's not true. I stopped breathing well before that. The only thing I can think of is he wanted to reinforce to the doctor the need to help me, that I wasn't dead yet. So my body and my mind, we split. My body goes to a table, my mind starts floating around the treating room above the lights that are focused on the body. And this doctor is trying to figure out what's wrong with me and what to do to save me, because he knows time's ticking. I'm not breathing, and I sense this disturbance over my head, where the ceiling hit the junction of the wall inside. There was this white vortex, and it obviously was a portal, because these beings came through. And they had a line on each side of the portal. They lined up, maybe 4 on each side. And it was as if they were waiting. And finally this other entity came through, and it was a male entity. And he was, and none of these 4 on each side communicated with me. They weren't there. It seemed like a procession. And then this other entity comes through the portal, and he addresses me. And it's male, and it's kind of commanding. Not kind of. It's a commanding presence. He is of authority. From wherever they are, he was an authority there. He says, "You're running out of time. You need to make a decision now. If you come with us, we can make sure you get a better body next life. You don't have to suffer like this. You can come with us, but you need to make a decision now." Okay, I'll go with you. And in my mind, I look at each of my family, and they're in different areas. My grandfather is in the lobby staring at the double doors that we'd come through. And he's over there. My mom is another place, and she's crying in a handkerchief. She's got the handkerchief to her face. She's quietly sobbing. My grandmother is stoically standing alone, as they all are. They're all alone. And she's somewhere else, just being stoic, silent, just staring. But it was my grandfather. I'd never seen him helpless like that. He was so alone and like, what has gone wrong here? I don't understand. I'd never seen him like that. Where we lived, he owned a restaurant. He owned a pharmacy. Everybody knew him. He was respected throughout the town. People liked him a lot. He was kind of he was the maitre d' of the restaurant. It was, he ran it. He liked to run things. And he was I wouldn't call him an alpha male, but he was a control freak. And he was somebody, everybody knew him. But I'd never seen him like this, alone, bereft, loss of hope, just the depths of hell. If there is a hell, he was in it. I couldn't leave him. I realized then, if I go with these entities, my family will never be the same. They'll blame each other and themselves for my death, and that's wrong. I'm the one that demanded to go to school that day. This is on me. And if I die, I'll never have the chance to tell them that. And if I stay, I won't have to, because I'll be alive and we'll be able to deal with this, which ironically we never did, because we never discussed it after that. It was as if it never happened. And as soon as I thought in my head, no, I'm not going, I'm back in my body as if nothing happened, and they're gone. The entities are gone. That had an effect. People who do not have that experience are not going to be able to realize the reality of reincarnation. the reality of rebirth. People live, people die, not knowing in this society, in Western civilization, the reality that there is no heaven, there is no hell, except what we make in this world, in this life. What we create for each other can be a heaven. What we create for each other can be a hell. And we do create hells for each other so often, needlessly. And I wonder if people really knew the truth. If they really knew, if you knew the truth, if you knew in your heart, in your soul, in your mind, that there was a life after death, what would you do with that knowledge? How would it change your life? Would you become less accountable to others, less accountable to yourself? Would you become more accountable? Would you want to work harder at making others have an easier life, a happier life? Or are you having a happier life, a more meaningful life? And what about death? We all die. How many of us walk out that door of death fearing what will happen next? I bet everybody. I can tell you this, after that day in Phoenix at 6 years old, I never feared death. I don't like pain. Pain sucks, okay? I felt a lot of it in my life. But I've never feared death. And I never will. Because I know I'll be back. And so will you. You may not remember it. And that's a shame. Because I think a lot of the traumas that we experience in this life are the result of unresolved traumas from past lives. For example, let's say, this is an extreme example, but it happens enough. Let's say somebody who's committed suicide in a past life. How did they resolve that in that life? They can't, they're dead. And obviously there was a reason they committed suicide, because they were unable to resolve the emotional trauma that they were going through that caused them to kill themselves, to commit self-death. So in this life, they're all messed up inside. Because all that anger at themselves, because I can tell you this, I'd be revealing something I really don't want to reveal yet, but I can tell you from personal knowledge that when you kill yourself, right before you die, you wish you hadn't. And you do anything to have a second chance. Anything. But that's another story. We all have past lives, and we all have past traumas. And life is a learning lesson. In each life we learn a little bit more about ourselves and why we're here. Because nobody can say they really know. We all guess. We all try to figure it out. We're all journeymen on this boat of life. But when the boat trip ends and we transfer from one life to the next, I have a feeling someday, and that day may come 50 years from now, 200 years from now, or somewhere in between. But sometime in the not so distant future, I'm convinced humanity will see rebirth, the process of living again in another body, as a scientific process scientifically valid, and we'll try to understand how to help each other process that as we near death. For example, providing people with next life counseling. You're not going to go to hell. You're not going to go to heaven. They don't exist. But you will come back, and you're going to take some memories that are not positive. I know you want to take with you all of the positive memories and none of the negative, but that's not how it works. In fact, most of the memories that evolution has kind of given us a roadmap of what we remember. We remember more negative events than positive ones. And the reason for that is self-preservation. Reincarnation is, or I should say evolution, is a process of creating a structure in which we're tested on whether we can survive. And we've been given certain tools. And memory is a very important tool because it teaches us what to avoid that might hurt us or kill us. And those memories are foremost held in our brains. They're the memories that are imprinted harder and more permanently in the limbic system than good memories, happy memories. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a reality. Evolution did that to us. And as a result, when we go from life to life to life to life to life to life, in each of those lives, in each of those lives, sorry about that, in each of those lives, in each of those lives, we've carried with us negative memories. Negative memories that evolution forces upon us in its blind pursuit of self-preservation. You know, I don't want to, whether you're a lowly mammal that remembers not to go in the water too deep because you can't swim, versus as a child, don't run in the street because you're going to get run over. Those memories matter. I still remember my first word, car. My aunt was given the job of ferrying me around in a little stroller. I must have been 2. And she was very happy to do it. But she walked me right into a moving car. I yelled out, car, because I was about to get run over because she wasn't paying attention. Fortunately for her, she could listen more than she could pay attention. So, that's that's a reality. That happened. I still have that memory. Why do I have that memory? Because I almost got run over. That's a negative memory. That's how evolution works. And each life we carry negative memories with us into the next life. How does that affect us? I don't think we realize. Why don't we realize? Because we don't realize, we don't validate reincarnation. We don't validate the process. So the effect it has upon us, we don't want to look at it. We don't want to investigate it. We don't want to learn it. And that's as dumb as cavemen refusing to go outside the cave and preferring to look at the back wall of the cave because they're afraid of the sunlight. and they're stuck in the caves staring at the back wall because they don't want to see the sun. Okay? And that thought process still exists in various forms, and maybe that's part of our DNA heritage too. Where does all this fit in the text, in the context of proof? I'm a lawyer. Been a lawyer for 40 years. In law, in criminal law, you got three views of certainty. You've got reasonable suspicion, you got probable cause, and you got clear and convincing. You got those three. Clear and convincing is basically what a jury comes up with when they make a decision as to guilt or innocence of an individual trial. When they reach a verdict, they have to be sure. They're instructed. You have to be sure that the person's guilty. If you have any reasonable doubt, you have to find him not guilty. So if there's a guilty verdict, there's clear and convincing evidence there was a crime committed, and the person at trial is the one who committed the crime, or at least one of them. What other parts of this spectrum of proof exist? You have probable cause. What's probable cause? Probable cause is enough evidence to warrant an arrest and prosecution, and ultimately a trial. What does it come down to in layman's language? Probable cause simply means it's more than likely that a crime was committed and this person did it. More than likely. That's probable cause. Who has that? Law enforcement comes to that conclusion or not after investigating an alleged offense. Where does that alleged offense information come from? A witness or a victim? And the information that first comes to law enforcement isn't clear and convincing, isn't probable cause. It's from a witness or a victim, and that provides law enforcement with a reasonable suspicion something happened and somebody did it. Who that is, what that is, requires further investigation. And that's the spectrum of proof in our criminal justice system. Where do we fit that spectrum on the issue of rebirth, reincarnation, phi alpha, whatever you want to call it? Well, we can't prove it. What's proof? It's subjective. I mean, I'm convinced. I've had enough proof. Okay, I died, talked to these entities, and now I chose to remain. And I know I'm going to have a better body next time. What that is, I don't know. But as I get older, I look forward to it more and more. I'm not afraid of death. Never was, never will be. So, is it probable cause? No, not yet. We don't have the instrumentation necessary to scientifically validate the processes that I've discussed. I mean, what it's going to take? The smoking gun? You're going to have to measure the biophotons emerging out of a dying brain and moving at the speed of light into the spinal cord of a fetus. You're going to have to be able to catch that and measure it. I mean, everything else we've been able to validate and document and as we cited in each of these episodes. Okay? And that's evidence, folks. All those citations are evidence. But it's not the smoking gun. It's it's pieces of a puzzle that I put together only because I've been there, okay, in my life. What I am is a witness. I'm a witness to the process. It unfolded before me in real time in my real life. Can't deny it, never have. I haven't shared it with a lot of people, but the ones I have, they know that I live it 24/7, 365, and have for all my life since I was 6. Enough that I wrote, when I retired some 8 years ago, I wrote 3 books about it, and then I did this series and I'll do more. This particular episode, and I apologize if it's rambling, it's the thought process I've been able to, it's the perspective, a couple of weeks taking off and just kind of thinking about it, I've been able to come up with. And as I come up with more, I'll certainly want to share it with you as time goes on. This isn't the end. But it is a point at which I think it's appropriate to provide some perspective, and at least, and if it's a little rambling, I apologize. But there's a lot to go over here, a lot to unpack. I think for now that's a good place to end. If you want to contact us, if you want to reach out and share anything with us, any experiences you've had in this, you can reach us at the Universal Mind Channel at gmail.com. That's the Universal Mind Channel at gmail.com. This isn't the end of what we have to share, but I think it's appropriate to end for now. I appreciate your interest, whether you agree with it or not. That's all for now. Thanks. Take care.